The gleaming spires of Xylos rose like perfect crystals against the pale lavender sky, each structure an exercise in flawless geometry and precise engineering. Commander Kalen Kai, Vance watched through the transport window as they descended toward the capital city, his weathered face reflecting in the glass. 15 years of military service had left their mark on him, though most remained hidden beneath his ceremonial combat armor. A masterpiece of human engineering that served as both protection and symbol of his position as Earth's diplomatic envoy. Final approach to Xylan High Council Chambers, Commander, announced the pilot. The welcoming delegation awaits. Kai adjusted his armor's collar seal and attempted to loosen muscles tightened by the journey. "Let's hope they're actually welcoming," he muttered, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. The mission briefing had been clear. The alliance between Earth and Xylos was faltering. The Xylans, renowned for their technological superiority and rigidly logical society, had begun to question the value of their partnership with humans, whom they increasingly viewed as chaotic, emotionally driven, and unreliable. Kai's assignment was to convince them otherwise. A simple diplomatic mission on paper. In reality, nothing about dealing with Xylans was ever simple. As the transport docked with perfect precision at the designated platform, Kai stood and checked his reflection one last time. The armor gleamed, its blue steel surface unmarred and uniform, projecting exactly the image of human competence and discipline that the mission required. He ran a hand through his short dark hair, now flecked with premature gray, and practiced his most charming smile, the one that had diffused countless tense situations across 3-star systems. Diplomatic mode activated, he whispered to himself as the transport doors slid open. The welcoming committee consisted of 6 Xylans, each tall and slender with the characteristic pearlescent skin that seemed to shimmer with faint iridescence. They stood in perfect formation, their posture immaculate, their faces expressionless beneath crowns of crystalline cranial ridges that marked their status in Xylan society. At their center stood Princess Lyra, heir to the throne of Xylos and Kai's primary diplomatic contact. Even by Xylan standards, Princess Lyra was striking. Her cranial crystalline formations were more elaborate than the others, forming a natural crown that caught the light. Her eyes were large, pupilless orbs of deep violet that seemed to analyze everything they fell upon with laser precision. Her posture was beyond perfect. It was a statement of absolute control. Unlike the flowing garments of her attendants, she wore a form-fitting suit of what appeared to be living metal, shifting subtly with her movements like a second skin. "Commander Vance," she spoke in perfect standard, her voice melodious yet emotionless. "You have arrived precisely on schedule. Efficiency is appreciated." Kai stepped forward and executed a formal bow, exactly as deep as protocol demanded. No more, no less. "Princess Lyra, the honor is mine. Earth sends its warmest greetings to the people of Xylos." "Warmth is a subjective human concept," she replied without inflection. "We prefer clarity and precision in our interactions. Please follow. The council awaits. Noon Shaki, Nuiz Mayo, no Pleasantries." Classic Xylan. Kai fell in a step beside her, conscious of the 4 silent guards that immediately flanked their procession. "Beautiful city you have here," Kai offered, attempting to break the ice as they walked through soaring corridors of carved crystal and living metal. "I've visited many worlds, but nothing quite compares to Xylan architecture. Our structures are designed for optimal functionality and resource efficiency," Lyra replied, without looking at him. "Aesthetic appeal is a secondary consideration." "Well, you've certainly achieved both," Kai persisted undeterred. "On Earth, we have a saying, form follows function. Seems like we might agree on something after all." A slight pause in her stride was the only indication she'd even heard him. After a moment, she simply stated, "The council chamber is ahead. You will be expected to present Earth's proposal regarding the extension of our technological exchange protocols." Kai suppressed a sigh. This was going to be even tougher than he'd anticipated. The council chamber was a vast circular room with tiered seating rising in perfect concentric rings around a central platform. Dozens of Xylan officials observed from above, their crystalline features catching the light from the transparent dome ceiling. Kai felt like a specimen under examination as he and Lyra took their positions on the central platform, her attendants arranging themselves at precise intervals around the perimeter. An elderly Xylan with elaborate cranial formations rose from the highest tier. "The Council recognizes Commander Kalen Vance of Earth," he intoned. "You may present your case for continued alliance." For the next hour, Kai delivered Earth's carefully crafted proposal, outlining mutual benefits, addressing Xylan concerns about human reliability, and emphasizing shared goals. He employed every diplomatic skill he'd honed through years of service. Charm when appropriate, gravitas when necessary, and strategic humor to break tension. Yet each attempt at lightening the atmosphere fell flat, met with silent stares or whispered consultations that his enhanced hearing could barely detect. And so, in conclusion, Kai finished, "Earth believes that our differences are not weaknesses but complementary strengths. Where you excel in precision and technological innovation, we offer adaptability and creative problem-solving. Together, we are stronger than apart." Silence filled the chamber. The Xylans exchanged glances, some tapping on barely visible interfaces embedded in their seats. Finally, Princess Lyra stepped forward. "Commander Vance speaks of transparency and trust," she addressed the council, her voice carrying effortlessly through the chamber. "Yet humans are known for their duplicity, their tendency to conceal true intentions behind emotional displays and social conventions." Kai felt a prickle of unease. This wasn't proceeding according to plan. "If I may respond, Your Highness," he began, but Lyra continued as if he hadn't spoken. "We Xylans value evidence above rhetoric, actions above words." She turned to face him directly, those violet eyes boring into his. "You speak of transparency while encased in armor. You talk of trust while maintaining barriers." The chamber grew utterly still. Kai became acutely aware of his ceremonial combat armor, suddenly feeling its weight in a way he hadn't before. "The armor is ceremonial, Your Highness," he explained carefully. "A symbol of respect for this important occasion. On Earth, our military representatives often—" "Is it merely ceremonial?" Lyra interrupted, her head tilting slightly in what Kai had come to recognize as Xylan skepticism. "Our scans indicate active systems, reinforced plating beyond decorative requirements, and various integrated technologies. It appears functional as well as symbolic." "Damn those Xylan scanners." Kai maintained his diplomatic smile. "You're correct, of course. This armor serves multiple functions, as most human technologies do. Efficiency, as you value so highly." A murmur rippled through the council, the closest thing to an emotional reaction he'd witnessed since arriving. Lyra took one precise step closer to him. "Commander Vance, to demonstrate the transparency you advocate, I request that you remove your armor." The words hung in the air like a physical presence. Kai blinked, certain he'd misheard or misunderstood some nuance of Xylan culture. "I'm sorry, Your Highness. Could you clarify what you're asking?" "It is not a complex request," Lyra replied evenly. "Remove your armor. If humans truly value openness and trust as you claim, demonstrate it personally." Kai glanced around the chamber. The council members leaned forward almost imperceptibly. Lyra's attendants exchanged brief glances, one shifting slightly as if uncomfortable, the first break in Xylan perfect composure he'd witnessed. This wasn't in any diplomatic protocol he'd studied. The armor wasn't just ceremonial. It was his uniform, his identity as Earth's representative. More importantly, it concealed what lay beneath, the physical legacy of his service that he preferred to keep private. "Your Highness," he said carefully, "with all respect to Xylan customs, the removal of my armor in this formal setting would be considered inappropriate by human standards." He attempted a light chuckle, not to mention rather time-consuming. "Perhaps after these proceedings." Now Lyra cut him off. "You claim humans and Xylans should trust one another despite our differences. Yet you refuse a simple demonstration of that trust. Her voice remained even, but something in those violet eyes had intensified. If you wish this council to believe in human commitments, Commander Vance, then prove you are committed to transparency. Take off your armor. Kai felt sweat forming on his brow beneath the armor's climate-controlled environment. The mission parameters flashed through his mind. Success was imperative, the alliance too important to fail over personal discomfort. You know what she was asking? Very well, he finally said, making his decision. If this will demonstrate Earth's commitment to our alliance, I will comply. A visible ripple of surprise moved through the chamber. Apparently, they hadn't expected him to agree. Even Lyra blinked, her perfect composure momentarily disturbed. Kai's fingers found the release mechanisms at his collar, disengaging the neural interface connections with practiced movements. The armor's power systems hummed as they disconnected, the subtle glow of its status indicators fading. He removed the helmet first, revealing his full face and setting it aside on a nearby table. Next came the shoulder pauldrons and chest plate, each component releasing with a soft hiss of breaking seals. The Xylans watched in silent fascination as layers of advanced technology were systematically removed and placed aside. Underneath the outer armor was the interface suit, a skin-tight layer of responsive material that connected to his neural implants. Kai hesitated at this stage, acutely aware that removing the interface suit would reveal not just his body, but the truth of what his years of service had cost him. He looked up at Lyra, hoping she would declare the demonstration sufficient. Her expression remained impassive, expectant. With a resigned breath, Kai found a release for the interface suit and began peeling it away. The material retracted, first exposing his right arm, wholly human, though marked with old scars from combat on 3 worlds. Then his torso, where the full extent of his modifications became visible. A collective gasp, the first true emotional response he'd heard from the Xylans, echoed through the chamber. Kai's left arm was almost entirely cybernetic, a sophisticated blend of synthetic muscle fiber and metallic exoskeleton extending from his shoulder to his fingertips. A portion of his left chest had been replaced as well, the skin around integration points marked with surgical scars. Across his torso, a network of older scars told stories of plasma burns, shrapnel, and combat trauma, a physical record of a violent past. But most striking were the integration points, the places where human flesh met technology. Unlike the seamless, perfect melding that characterized Xylan technology, Kai's cybernetics bore the marks of urgent battlefield medicine, of procedures performed for survival rather than aesthetics. The technology was advanced, but it was unmistakably utilitarian, designed to restore function rather than achieve perfection. Lyra stared, her violet eyes wider than Kai had seen them, fixed on the patchwork of scars and cybernetic components that comprised his body. Her attendants had abandoned their perfect composure, some stepping forward for a better view, others drawing back slightly. "Is this sufficient transparency, Your Highness?" Kai asked, unable to keep a slight edge from his voice. Lyra approached him slowly, stopping just a step away. Her eyes traced the line where metal met flesh at his shoulder, the old burn scar that covered part of his right side, the visible power conduits embedded along his cybernetic arm. "You are damaged," she finally said, using the Xylan term that could mean either injured or imperfect. "I prefer experienced," Kai replied with a forced smile. 15 years serving Earth across 3 conflict zones. This is what that looks like. "Your species values this?" asked one of the council members, sounding genuinely confused. "To maintain a body that shows such inefficiency." Kai couldn't help the short, sharp laugh that escaped him. "We don't exactly value getting blown up, sir, but we do value those who survive it and keep going." "Your cybernetic components," Lyra said, her analytical mind clearly shifting to technical assessment. "They appear functional but crude by our standards. Most were installed in field hospitals," Kai explained, feeling oddly vulnerable yet committed now to this unexpected turn in diplomacy. When you're bleeding out on a battlefield 3 systems away from home, you don't get the luxury of aesthetic considerations. The elderly council leader leaned forward. Yet you conceal these modifications. Why? If they represent service and survival, as you claim? A fair question. Kai looked down at his mismatched body, considering how to explain. On Earth, we have complicated feelings about such things, he said finally. Some see these modifications as marks of honor. Others see them as reminders of pain, of loss. And some, he hesitated, some simply find them disturbing to look at. So we often cover them, not out of shame, but out of courtesy and habit. Lyra circled him slowly, examining the cybernetic arm from all angles. These modifications impair your function? Quite the opposite, Kai replied. The arm is stronger than my original, though the neural response is sometimes delayed in cold environments. The chest plating protects vital organs that were damaged. They're improvements, in a way, just not ones I would have chosen voluntarily. Something shifted in the atmosphere of the chamber. The Xylans began whispering among themselves, their perfect composure giving way to animated discussion. Kai stood exposed, physically and metaphorically, as the council debated in their own language too rapidly for him to follow. Finally, Lyra raised a hand, and silence fell immediately. "Commander Vance," she said, "you have demonstrated unexpected compliance with my request. This council will recess to consider the implications of what we have learned. You may." She hesitated, seemingly uncertain of the proper protocol in this unprecedented situation. "You may reassemble your attire." As Kai began the process of red-onning his interface suit and armor, he caught something in Lyra's expression, a fleeting look that, on a human, he might have interpreted as respect mixed with curiosity. But before he could analyze it further, she had turned away, leading her attendants from the chamber. One of them, a tall male Xylan with particularly sharp features and an elaborate security insignia on his chest, lingered longer than the others, his gaze fixed on Kai's cybernetic components with an intensity that felt more calculating than curious. This, Kai noted, must be Commander Kale, head of the Xylan Guard, whose reputation for xenophobic views was well documented in Earth's intelligence briefings. As Kale finally turned to leave, his cold eyes met Kai's for a brief moment, and Kai felt a chill that had nothing to do with the chamber's temperature. The armor sealed around him once more, its familiar weight both comforting and suddenly stifling. Whatever happened next, Kai realized the mission had veered into uncharted territory. He had revealed far more than intended, physically and strategically. Whether that would help or hinder Earth's cause remained to be seen. As the last council member departed, leaving him alone in the vast chamber, Kai allowed himself a moment of genuine emotion, whispering words meant for no one but himself. Well, that's one way to bare your soul in the name of diplomacy. The reception hall assigned to Kai was a testament to Xylan precision. Every angle exact, every surface polished to perfection, every amenity placed for optimal efficiency rather than comfort. He had spent the 3 hours since the council meeting reviewing diplomatic protocols and sending encrypted updates to Earth Command, carefully omitting certain details about just how literal his transparency had become. The door chimed once, a pure, perfect tone, before sliding open to reveal Princess Lyra, now accompanied by only 2 attendants rather than her full entourage. Kai rose immediately, his armor once again complete and sealed. "Your Highness, I wasn't expecting." "The council has questions," she interrupted, entering without waiting for invitation. "I will ask them directly, as intermediaries would introduce inefficiency." "Of course," Kai replied, gesturing to the seating arrangement. "Would you like to?" "This will not require extended duration," she said, remaining standing. Her attendants positioned themselves at precise intervals near the door, silent and watchful. Kai nodded, remaining on his feet as well. "I'm at your disposal, Your Highness." Lyra studied him with those penetrating violet eyes, her gaze now somehow different after having seen what lay beneath his armor. "Your cybernetic components, they were not mentioned in your diplomatic profile." "No, they weren't," Kai acknowledged. They're not relevant to my qualifications or authority as Earth's representative. We disagree, Lyra stated flatly. Such modifications represent significant personal history and potential capability variations. The omission appears deliberate. Kai considered his response carefully. In human culture, medical history is considered private. Would you include detailed accounts of any surgical procedures you've undergone in your diplomatic credentials? Something flickered across her features, perhaps surprise at his direct counter-question. Xylans do not undergo procedures as you describe. Our medical interventions are preventative and optimizing, not reactive to catastrophic damage. Then perhaps that's a fundamental difference worth exploring, Kai suggested, seizing the opportunity for actual dialogue. Humans often learn and grow through responding to damage, to crisis. We rarely seek wounds, but we value how we heal from them. Lyra tilted her head slightly. This is inefficient. Maybe, Kai acknowledged with a small smile. But it's produced a species that's explored 50-star systems and survived encounters with 17 different alien civilizations, some far less accommodating than yours. For the first time, Lyra seemed to consider his words rather than simply processing them. After a moment, she said, "The Council has authorized me to continue diplomatic discussions on a provisional basis. Your demonstration of compliance has been noted favorably." "I'm glad to hear that," Kai replied sincerely. "Though I hope future negotiations won't require quite so much personal exposure." He attempted a light smile, testing whether Xylan appreciation for humor might have evolved in the past few hours. Lyra's expression remained unchanged, but she replied, "That would be inefficient to repeat." Coming from her, it was practically a joke. Before Kai could respond, a sharp tone emanated from one of Lyra's attendants. The Xylan touched a nearly invisible device at his wrist, then leaned forward to whisper something in Lyra's ear. Her posture, already perfect, somehow became even more rigid. "A situation requires my attention," she announced. "We will resume discussions tomorrow at the appointed time." Without further explanation, she turned and departed, her attendants falling in a step behind her. Only after the door had closed did Kai allow his diplomatic mask to slip, exhaling heavily and rolling his shoulders to release the tension. Something had happened, something significant enough to interrupt a princess's diplomatic mission. Whether it would impact his assignment remained to be seen. He was just about to request a meal when a deep, reverberating boom shook the entire structure. Kai instinctively dropped into a combat stance, his cybernetic arm automatically activating its enhanced response protocols even through the armor. The lights flickered, then stabilized. The door to his quarters remained sealed, but the communication panel beside it flashed urgently. Kai approached cautiously and activated it. The screen displayed only text, which was unusual for advanced Xylan technology. "Security alert. Remain in designated areas. Unauthorized movement will be met with force." Before Kai could request more information, the panel went dark. "Well, that's not ominous at all," he muttered, quickly checking that his personal sidearm was still secured in its hidden compartment in his armor. Whatever was happening, he had a sinking feeling it would complicate his already challenging mission. 3 hours later, Kai paced his quarters like a caged animal. No updates had been provided, no communication allowed. He had attempted to access the Xylan information network through his quarters terminal, only to find all systems locked down. The distant sounds of security forces moving through the building had been his only indication that the outside world still existed. The door slid open without warning, revealing not the expected security team, but Princess Lyra herself, alone and visibly tense. An unprecedented display of emotion for a Xylan of her standing. "Your Highness," Kai began, surprised. "What's—" "Commander Vance," she cut him off, her voice lower than usual. "You are being accused of sabotage and espionage against silos. Commander Kale is currently presenting evidence to the Council linking you directly to an explosion at our central research facility." Kai stared at her, momentarily speechless. "That's absurd," he finally managed. "I've been in these quarters or in council chambers since arriving." There's been no opportunity. The evidence suggests, Lyra continued, that your cybernetic components contain embedded technology capable of interfacing with and compromising our systems remotely. The explosion targeted our quantum computation core, destroying crucial defense algorithms. Understanding dawned on Kai with sickening clarity. And since you all saw my cybernetics during the council meeting, Kale is suggesting I use them to somehow attack your facility. He shook his head. That's technologically impossible. My modifications are medical and physical, not designed for remote hacking. Lyra's violet eyes studied him with unsettling intensity. Commander Kale has recovered fragments of technology from the explosion site that bear similarity to your cybernetic components. The Council is deliberating now. It's a frame-up, Kai stated flatly. Someone wants to sabotage the Alliance and make humans the scapegoat. A serious accusation, Lyra noted, her tone unreadable. As serious as the one against me, Kai countered. Princess, think logically. Why would I, a diplomatic envoy with a crucial mission, sabotage the very alliance I was sent to strengthen? And if I had such technology, why would I voluntarily expose it to your council's scrutiny? Lyra was silent for a long moment, her expression unreadable even to Kai's trained diplomatic eye. Finally, she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. Commander Kale has ordered your arrest and immediate neural scanning, a process that would be invasive for a partially cybernetic being, such as yourself. The probability of permanent neural damage is significant. Kai felt cold dread settling in his stomach. And you're here to escort me to this procedure? Something changed in Lyra's posture, a subtle shift that seemed almost like hesitation. I find inconsistencies in Kale's evidence. The technological signature does not precisely match your components, though the similarity is sufficient to convince those predisposed to distrust humans. You don't believe I did it, Kai realized, surprised. I calculate a 78.3% probability that you are being falsely accused, Lyra replied, which Kai recognized as virtual certainty by Xylan standards. More significantly, I calculate a 92.1% probability that Commander Kale himself is involved in the sabotage. Then why are you telling me this instead of the Council? Because Kale has temporarily assumed emergency security powers. The Council has been isolated for their protection. My royal status prevents him from detaining me, but my communications are being monitored. She stepped closer, lowering her voice further. I require your assistance to uncover the truth. You possess combat experience and knowledge of your own technology that may prove essential. Kai couldn't hide his surprise. You're asking me to help you investigate Kale? Against your own security forces? I'm asking you to help me protect Xylos, she corrected precisely. And by extension, your alliance. We must depart immediately. Kale's forces will arrive to detain you in approximately 12 minutes. Just like that, we walk out. A small, almost imperceptible change occurred in Lyra's expression, the closest thing to a smile Kai had seen on a Xylan face. I'm still the crown princess. There are passages known only to the royal family. She moved toward a seemingly solid wall and pressed her palm against it in a specific pattern. The wall shimmered and became transparent, revealing a narrow corridor beyond. Wait, Kai said, suddenly realizing the implications. You're risking everything on your belief that I'm innocent. What? Lyra paused at the secret entrance, those violet eyes meeting his with unexpected intensity. When you removed your armor in the council chamber, you revealed something Xylans rarely encounter. Physical evidence of survival through imperfection. It was instructive. She gestured toward the passage. Now we must go. Unless you prefer to explain your innocence to Kale while he dissects your cybernetic components. Put that way, the choice was clear. Kai followed the princess into the hidden passage, the walls solidifying behind them, just as alarms began to sound throughout the complex. The hidden passages of the Xylan royal complex were unlike anything Kai had ever seen. Not dark, cramped service tunnels as he might have expected, but pristine, luminescent corridors that seemed to exist in a space somehow between the architectural elements of the main structure. The walls glowed with a soft blue-white light that illuminated their way without casting shadows. These passages date from the earliest days of Xylan unified governance, Lyra explained as they moved swiftly through the network. They were designed to allow the royal family to observe and move throughout the complex unseen. Convenient for situations like this, Kai noted, keeping pace despite his bulky armor. Though I'm surprised your people would build in such inefficiency. Lyra glanced back at him, and Kai could have sworn he saw a flicker of amusement in those alien eyes. Even logical societies recognize the value of contingency planning, Commander. They emerged into what appeared to be a small, circular chamber filled with terminals and monitoring equipment. A single Xylan occupied one of the stations, younger than most Kai had seen, with less elaborate cranial formations and wearing what appeared to be technical rather than ceremonial attire. The young Xylan jumped to his feet when they entered. "Your Highness, the security protocols are temporarily suspended. Technician Vex," Lyra stated with authority. "This is Commander Vance of Earth. He will be assisting us." Vex's eyes widened as he took in Kai's armored form. "The human they're searching for? But the alerts say he's responsible for incorrect data," Lyra interrupted. "Commander Kale is pursuing an agenda counter to Xylan interests. We require your technical expertise to uncover evidence of his involvement in the research facility attack." Vex hesitated only briefly before nodding. "I serve the crown, Your Highness." He turned curious eyes to Kai. "Is it true what they're saying? That you're part machine beneath that armor?" "Vex," Lyra admonished sharply. "It's all right," Kai said, oddly touched by the young Xylan's directness. The first hint of something approaching normal human curiosity he'd encountered. "Yes, about 30% of me is machine, as you put it. Combat injuries required substantial reconstruction." Vex looked fascinated. "Our medical technology could have regenerated the organic components completely. Why maintain the mechanical elements?" "Different philosophical approach," Kai explained simply. "Earth doesn't have your regeneration technology, but we've learned to adapt using what we have." Now, he turned to Lyra. "What exactly are we looking for, and how do we find it?" Lyra activated one of the terminals, which projected a three-dimensional schematic of what Kai assumed was the damaged research facility. "The explosion originated here," she indicated a pulsing red section in the quantum computation core. "According to Kale's report, fragments of technology matching human cybernetic signatures were found in this area. However, her slender fingers manipulated the display. I obtained preliminary scans showing residual energy patterns inconsistent with this claim." "You think the fragments were planted?" Kai surmised. "Correct. But more significantly, the explosion pattern indicates the device was placed by someone with intimate knowledge of Xylan security systems." She looked up at him. "Our systems would have detected any unauthorized human technology attempting to interface with them, but they would not question authorized Xylan equipment registering proper credentials." "Like the credentials of the head of security," Kai nodded, understanding. "But we need proof." "Precisely." Lyra turned to Vex. "Access the security logs for the research facility. Focus on credential usage patterns for the past 48 hours. While Vex worked, Kai studied the facility schematic more closely. What exactly was being researched in this facility? A moment of hesitation from Lyra. Advanced integration technologies. Methods of enhancing biological systems with technological components. Kai raised an eyebrow behind his helmet. "You mean cybernetics?" "Like mine. Far more sophisticated," Lyra corrected, then seemed to realize how that sounded. "That is to say, different in approach. Your cybernetics replace damaged biological systems. These would enhance intact biological systems. Military applications," Kai guessed. Lyra did not deny it. "Among others." "Your Highness," Vex interrupted, his voice tense. "I found something unusual. Commander Kale's credentials were used to access the quantum core 12 hours before the explosion. This is normal. But they were used again 6 hours later from a different access point simultaneously, while Kale was documented attending a security briefing elsewhere. Credential duplication, Lyra said, violet eyes narrowing. Highly illegal under Xylan law. And evidence that someone else using Kale's access destroyed your facility, Kai added. But is it Kale himself covering his tracks? Or is someone else setting him up too? Before Lyra could respond, the lights in the chamber dimmed momentarily, and a new alert flashed across all terminals. They've detected unauthorized access to the security logs, Vex reported, fingers flying across his interface. They're tracing the connection now. Can you block them? Lyra demanded. Temporarily, but the young technician was cut off by a loud warning tone. Too late. They've located this chamber. We need to move, Kai said, instinctively shifting into combat mode. Is there another exit? Lyra nodded sharply. 2 levels down, we can access the transport bay. She turned to Vex. Transfer all relevant data to a secure crystal and then wipe these systems. Leave no trace of what we discovered. As Vex hurried to comply, Kai placed a hand on Lyra's arm. A breach of protocol that would have been unthinkable hours earlier. They'll be watching all official transports. Then we shall use an unofficial one, she replied with unexpected determination. I maintain a private vessel for contingencies. A royal escape plan? Kai couldn't help smiling behind his helmet. Very logical. For the first time, Lyra's lips curved in what was unmistakably a small, deliberate smile. I believe humans call it having a backup plan. The smile vanished as quickly as it appeared. We must hurry. Kale's forces will use lethal measures against you and detain me for my safety. Neither outcome is acceptable. With Vex leading the way, they plunged back into the hidden passage network just as the chamber's main entrance began to glow red with cutting tools from the other side. The journey through the passage network was tense and swift. Twice they had to stop as Vex consulted hidden terminals to check security movements in the main complex. Once they had to backtrack and find an alternate route when sensors indicated section ahead had been discovered and breached by Kale's forces. They're getting better at anticipating our movements, Kai observed as they crouched in a narrow junction, waiting for Vex's all-clear signal. Almost as if they have access to royal family protocols. Lyra finished his thought, her voice tight. This confirms my suspicion that Kale's conspiracy extends deeper into the government than I initially calculated. Your Highness, Vex whispered urgently from ahead. The transport bay is just beyond this section, but there are multiple security personnel stationed throughout. Standard approach is impossible. Kai moved forward to assess the situation. Through a nearly invisible observation port, he could see the transport bay, a vast hangar containing various vehicles from small personal shuttles to larger diplomatic vessels. At least 20 armed Xylan guards patrolled the area, concentrating around what Kai assumed was Lyra's private vessel, a sleek, crystalline ship unlike any Earth design he'd seen. Direct confrontation would be unwise, Lyra stated, analyzing the same scene. Even with your combat capabilities, Commander. Agreed, Kai replied, already considering alternatives. We need a diversion. Vex looked between them nervously. Perhaps I could trigger an alarm in another section? They detect the false signal immediately. Lyra dismissed the idea. We need something genuine. Kai studied the hangar layout more carefully, noting the fuel distribution systems, the automated loading mechanisms, and finally, a maintenance drone working near the far wall. Those maintenance drones, he asked, how autonomous are they? Fully automated, but limited in function, Lyra answered. They perform routine maintenance and repairs. And if one were to malfunction, say, by attempting to refuel a vessel incorrectly, understanding,